Welcome to episode 3 of B&B Financially Free.
Woo!
Woo! We are excited to have Alexa Ferguson in our little studio today. We're actually in the office, and Alexa is one of our brokers at Good Neighbor Realty.
Yes, thanks for having me, guys.
You bet. So I am really excited to chat with you today because of your experience in particular with house hacking. How many homes do you have now?
We have 3 houses now.
Amazing. I just want to hear more about how did you get interested in real estate investing at first? Because I've known you for a long time. In fact, I can't even remember when I didn't know you
It's
at
true.
this point.
We were wee babes.
We really were.
In
So
Florida.
maybe you could tell the story of us.
This is going to take a turn.
And how this led to where your real estate investing journey from being a wee girl in Florida to now someone who owns 3 short-term rentals.
Well, it all goes back to the Christmas pageant. No, Chantal and I grew up together. We were in the same church, and we did this crazy Christmas pageant, and it really made us who we are today. Anyway, that's a whole nother podcast. Okay, so we got into real estate investing. My husband, Reed, he actually got us into it. He was in grad school. Instead of taking a job, because he had kind of a light schedule, he was like, let me learn how to manage money. So he started reading all these books, listening to all these podcasts, and he was like, hey, this house hacking idea is like what we need to do. We were like planning to get married and move and whatever. So we were like, all right, let's do it. So we moved to Denver. We were like pretty fresh out of school. We had just gotten married. We were 24. And we had like no money. And we were like, let's buy our first house. Seemed like a good idea. And we put 3.5% down. We bought our first house for $380,000, which was really great.
Wow.
Glory days, low interest rate. And then we rented our basement. Originally as a long-term rental, and we made like $1,500 a month, which was like half our mortgage, which was amazing. And then we're like, let's try this whole Airbnb thing, see if it was like a new, no one was talking about it really even then. And we're like, let's just try it. And then we're like, oh, we're making double what we were making when we had a long-term person down here. So that really like got us into it. We went hard in Airbnb after that. We had the itch for sure. So then we moved out of that house. We rented the whole house as a full Airbnb, and then it became a cash flowing asset for us that we'll hold on to for a really long time. Did it again at a second house that was just like a mile away, rented the basement, lived for free, and then recently moved out of that one. Now that one is a full Airbnb that cash flows for us, and now we're living in our third one, and we rent the basement of that one. We'll probably stay there for a little bit longer, but that's kind of been our journey so far.
I love that. So when Reed first told you about house hacking, did you have any context for this? Were you initially on board? Were you excited about it?
Yeah. I was like, yeah, whatever. No, I was like, that makes so much sense to purchase a property that will appreciate over time. This is like a long game thing for us from the beginning, and then have other people pay our mortgage, even if it's just a part. And initially our goal was just to like reduce expenses as much as we could. So yeah, like cut out our biggest expense, which is our living expense. And so that instantly like changed the game for us financially. And then our goals have sort of evolved from there. But that was kind of the initial thing. And I was on board. Yeah, I'm grateful that Reed and I have kind of grown together in this way since like we started right when we got married, and we've both grown in passion for this thing and how it has like changed our financial lives. And so that's been cool.
That is really cool. So when you first purchased your primary residence, what were you doing at the time? Were you in real estate at the time?
So I was doing public relations for attorneys. It wasn't my passion, to say the least. It was fine. It was a great company, but I was just like, I just don't like care about this truly to dedicate all my time to it. So yeah, I had a W-2 job. Reed is a structural engineer, so he also had a W-2 job. I think we got our first mortgage off of like our offer letters that we had, and we put, I think it was like $17,000 down or something. And we wanted to buy a car at the same time, so we asked our parents to give us a private loan for that so we could actually qualify for the house. Like, we really started with as little as you could, which worked for us at the time. Mm-hmm.
And tell us about the initial setup. So you started with long-term rental, and then you had to convert to short-term rental, and obviously you don't need furniture, or did you furnish it for the long-term rental?
No, we didn't. And it was also like COVID hit right when we bought this house. Literally while we were under contract. We were under contract for 90 days because COVID hit in the middle. So that was wild. But yeah, so we were like, I don't think that Airbnb is even a thing if we wanted to try it right now. And so we just put a long-term person there for 6 months. And then we wanted to give Airbnb a shot. So then we furnished. And we went really simple, some Facebook Marketplace stuff, some cheap furniture, really like not design. If I've learned one thing over the past few years, that design is not my skill set. I think it looks so good. And then I look back and I'm like, this is horrible. Like, why would anyone want to stay here? But yeah, it was really bare bones, really minimal. And I think we furnished our first one for like maybe just under $5,000. Yeah, so that was the setup for the first one.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, so how do you think that like Airbnb and like house hacking has kind of like given you more freedom throughout just like the short time that you've really been investing here? I mean, it's changed a lot of our clients' lives. It's changed Chantal and my life as well. What do you think the impact is for just investing for just such a short time?
Yeah. So it's pretty wild to think like, so we're on our third property now. It's only 3 houses. It's nothing crazy. And we we just moved into the third one and started renting the second one. So all of our projections are saying we should be netting $60,000 a year from these 3 properties, which is wild. That was like more than I made in my PR job, you know? So that has been really powerful for us in the sense of it just gives us options. So when I started doing real estate on the side while I was still working my PR job just to like speed up our investing. Like, we wanted to make money faster. I was like, I'll do 2 deals a year, whatever. And then I was like, wait, this is like way more fun and fulfilling working with investors. This is like my true passion. So I wanted to take that full time, but it's really scary to go from W-2 to full commission. And because we had our properties making us money, it was much easier. I was like, if I can't get business for a couple of months, like, we're fine. Our properties are at the minimum covering all of our biggest expenses, and then most of the time making us money too. So gave me freedom to move into a career that I actually was passionate about, which was awesome. And then now it just gives us flexibility. Like, say I have a slow month working, we're covered. Say I want to go on vacation for a bit, we're fine, we can do that. Say Reed wants to leave his job eventually, like, we can do all those things. And what we want to do with that flexibility has sort of evolved over the years, but the fact is that we do have options now, which is cool.
I think that that's really exciting to think about because, you know, so many people when they're purchasing a property, they are so nervous about like the investment, and because it feels like very committal, you know, like you're getting a mortgage and that mortgage is for 30 years and it feels like, oh man, like this is going to give me less freedom by taking on this debt. But I felt the same way. Like, as soon as I had my living expenses covered by house hacking, and then I went and moved on to like having that asset actually make me money every single month. Now my short-term rental portfolio is like my safe blanket. Like, everything else that I do outside of short-term rentals still feels more risky than my short-term rental investments. But when you're getting started, that feels like the most risky step in the beginning.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And it really has been that for us. And of course you want to think about exit strategy should something wild happen again. But yeah, it truly is like our safety net in a lot of ways. So yeah, it's been cool.
Let's go back to just your portfolio. So you purchased the first one for $380,000. How much was that basement apartment earning as a short-term rental, and how much is it earning today as a whole home rental?
So that basement average over the year was making like $3,000 a month. Now as a whole house, it averages like $6,000 a month.
Nice.
Yeah. And that's a gross number. And then our second property is similar. It actually makes a little bit more. I think it's just bigger and nicer. So that one would average probably like $8,000 a month as a whole house.
And what was the purchase price on the second one?
Second one was $495 with still like a 4% interest rate or something, which was really nice.
But it probably felt high after your 2.8% interest rate.
And going from $380 to $495, I was like, this is almost $500. Like, this is crazy. So it was a jump.
Yeah. And then where are your properties located in proximity to our office here in Denver Metro?
So they're like 12 minutes north. Yeah, it's Denver City, Adams County. So it's short-term rental friendly.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And then what are those properties worth now? So obviously they're cash flowing, but did they increase in value since you purchased them?
Yeah. So the first one, we got in at such a good time, like totally unaware. But we bought that one for $380. That both of those, and the second was $495. Both of them are like mid 500s now, which is amazing. Yeah.
That is so cool.
Mm-hmm.
So that is like a huge jump in like A, your monthly income from these two properties, and then B, the asset itself has appreciated a lot.
Yeah, which has been amazing. And that's kind of a big part of the strategy too, is like as we buy these properties, it's like we're setting up little piggy banks that are just growing and growing over how long we own them. And at the same time, they're generating us cash flow right now that we can use. So it's really like a win-win in so many ways. And what I love about that too is this initially was reduce expenses, how fast can we like retire, blah, 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 travel the world. And now it's more like an abundance mindset, a little more so of like, we're generating wealth from this. This can be passed on to generations after us. Like, I can give my children a cash flowing asset, or just be like, hey, I'm selling this property, I'm going to send you to school, or you know what I mean? Like, there's just so much that you can do with it. And so that's been really cool for us to realize too.
Yeah. It's super cool. I mean, so I guess like the next question that our audience is probably already asking is like, what's next for Alexa and Reed?
That's the question. So we just moved into a new house that's really in like our dream location. And
where is that in case anybody would like to visit?
Berkeley, Colorado. Off of Tennyson Street. So we're in our dream spot, and our two first houses like pay for this one in the summers fully, and then we're renting the basement of our current house because we just can't stop. We just can't stop. So anyway, so I think we want to be in this house for a while. We just like love living there. And then we are renting our basement now, but I think once we like grow our family, I think we'll want to stop renting the basement and use the entire house. So it's almost like someone else is helping pay down our mortgage in the meantime, and we'll grow into this house, which I think is really cool. And then as far as investments, I think next for us would probably be something in the mountains. It's a big part of what we do, and I keep doing this for clients, and I'm like, when is it going to be me? When's Alexa's turn to have a cabin? But yeah, I think that would be cool for the next thing, to have somewhere that like our family can go and hang out, and then is also a lucrative investment.
I like two things that you said a little bit earlier too. So, at some point your why in this journey kind of changed. Like, you kind of changed from like just wanting to cover your expenses, and then you wanted to cash flow, and now you want to actually like build wealth and build like a portfolio because you've seen that you can do that. And I really relate to that too. Like, I think at some point in my journey, in my career, like I was just like, I don't want to have to work. Like, I will do anything not to have to work. But then once you have like that financial freedom and your needs are actually covered, you're like, wait, I like work.
Yeah.
In fact, like I'm enjoying like the journey of like getting higher income. I love that you increased your income too in this journey from, the point where you were working for a law firm to now the point where you're a career real estate agent and earning much higher income, it's cool to see how that evolution happened to you. And I also love what you said about just having like the little piggy bank. So can you like touch on that a little bit further? Like, what do you think this portfolio will mean to you guys long term? How do you see this growing over time?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think about, like, the rate of appreciation here is so solid, and like things are just really growing rapidly. And so I think, like, I don't know, I think 30 years from now, when we have like these homes paid off, I mean, who knows how much they're going to be worth? Like $800K, $1 million, like, I don't know, but they're close to downtown, they're in great locations. And so I think down the line, they're going to be like they're going to pay off huge for us in properties that we can either hold on to and have no monthly payment that just make us money, or something that we can sell and really cash out on. So yeah, it's exciting to think about what it could be in the long term.
Yeah, I love that thought, because I mean, if you're making $6,000 a month, and obviously you have expenses related to that, maybe $2,500 in mortgage, maybe another $1,500 in cleaning. Imagine if you didn't have that mortgage payment.
Yeah.
Like, once it's, you know, an asset that's paid off. And I think, Peter, you talk a lot about this too. Like, can you make more money in short-term rental every year as well? Like, could we expect for short-term rental income to increase with time?
Yeah, I would say that, like, real estate's like such a powerful wealth generation tool in the long term, because like your mortgage payment stays the same for the most part. I mean, unless your property taxes go up just a little bit, but like essentially your monthly payment stays the same. And like inflation goes up, and every year you can charge a little bit more for Airbnb. Every year your house goes up a little bit more. I mean, you know, a lot of our clients are like serial entrepreneurs as well. So they're always looking for like other stuff, and, you know, they're doing Turo and stuff, and they're like trying to rent out their cars, but it's just not the same. It's just not as good as real estate, because the asset is always depreciating in most of these other businesses. So like, if you can like stick with real estate in the long term, it will automatically give you more financial security like every year. And yeah, I mean, I think that like all three of our portfolios will, like, in the long run, they'll already be like enough financial security for like our own little families, I think. But of course, like, you know, with the abundance mindset, we're just always like, hey, like, you know, the more people we can help, the more wealth we can grow, like, you know, the better we can enrich other people's lives around us.
And adding to that too, I think there's also ways to accelerate how much more we can make off of the same property. So I was saying that initially we just like put whatever simple minimalist furniture in our house, and then we rented the house. It did fine. In the next few years, a lot more short-term rentals came on the market, and so there was a lot more you had to do to be competitive and really be like a top-performing property in your area. So we've gone back and refurnished one property. We're doing another one right now, because it just will accelerate how much you can make that property like overnight. So we went back and we had a designer redo that property. And the first one. Yep.
Okay, so originally you just set it up with kind of Facebook Marketplace, like bare bones. Did you do that on the upstairs too for that one originally?
Yeah, okay. All just ugly. Yeah. And I was like, why are people staying here? It's so ugly. But anyways.
And I think that that's like such a good point though. Like, and we said this in our first episode, but the market has really changed. Like, at some point that was working. Like, you were way ahead of the curve if you had like matching anything, and if you had professional photography, which you did. I mean, her place wasn't that ugly. Like, it's kind of ugly. But like, talk to us now about like the investment that you made again into that property, and how you've seen that property perform since that investment.
Yeah. So when we had it just very simply furnished, it was grossing like $55,000 a year. Top properties in our area should be making like $80,000 to $90,000. And so we were like, we are way behind the curve here. Like, we were doing well. Now there's ones that are way better than us. So we had a designer come in And we tried to have her like use what she could from the property to kind of be a little bit cost effective with it. And then we just like sold whatever she couldn't use, which ended up being a lot of stuff because she was like, I can't do anything with this. This couch is just ugly.
This belongs in the trash.
Yeah, I was like, ow, but okay. You're the expert. So she came in and redesigned it, I think for like $15,000. And it looks so good. We went granny chic with it because the house has like these kind of old things about it, like pink tile in the bathrooms. And we did this fun, like dark turquoise paint on like the walls and the ceiling. I just think I love it. Anyway, and now we're on track to do conservatively like $75,000 this year with that house. So it was an investment of cash up front, but in the long run, it's really going to make a big difference.
That's crazy because I mean that $15,000 that you put up front, not only do you get that back in year one, but you can get $5,000 more than that in year one, and then that's going to continue to happen like every year that goes past. That is so cool and interesting that you were able to redesign that. Something that people ask me about all the time is like, why are people renting basement units? Like, what type of people stay in your basements? Like, why are they there? What are they doing? Where are they from? How really many of them are down there?
I'm like, why are you? We've had people like honeymoon in our basement, and
that
I'm
is
like,
wild.
I'm like, oh man, I hope you're having a good time. But yeah, people come for all sorts of reasons. There's parents who are here to help move their daughter in down the street. There's families here for a softball tournament. There's people who are here on a work trip, people who just want to come see the area, like visit Denver, Red Rocks concerts, the whole thing. Usually, like, we allow max of 4 people down there. We don't want anyone getting rowdy. We have noise machines everywhere just in case. But yeah, I mean, it's been interesting to see what kind of people come and stay in your basement. And yeah, people don't mind that you're not necessarily in downtown Denver, as long as you're close in proximity to most things. Like our other 2 houses are right where all the highways sort of meet. So it's like a quick shot up to Boulder, a quick shot out to Red Rocks, 12 minutes to downtown. So it works for people.
And there's a water park in that area.
Water World, never been, but sounds cool. We're going to have a team outing at Water World.
For sure.
Waterworld is fantastic. I grew up here in Denver, so I've actually been.
Would you recommend?
Yeah, it's fantastic. It really is. If you put on sunscreen.
I should list it as an amenity, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, that pause said everything.
And then in comparison, so, you know, obviously the house that you bought recently was, you know, a much higher investment, a much nicer home. It's in a really great area. How does that basement perform in comparison to your other properties? Is there a big difference in being walkable to amenities and restaurants and bars?
So there has been a pretty big difference. It's about $1,000 more a month that basement is making. And I do think it's because of...
So from like $3,000 to $4,000.
Yep, generally over the year. Yes, exactly. And yeah, it's super walkable. People can walk to shops and restaurants. You're super close to downtown. And it has a full kitchen, which is nice. So yeah, that has definitely made a difference, I've noticed.
Yeah, that's interesting to think about. There's definitely a trade-off in that too. Because, so I still have a basement rental going. I have a property that basically acts as a triplex, and one of them is a basement unit. And it is interesting because, you know, a lot of times people are like, why would people stay here? And it's really the fact that they have to stay there because Denver County is really expensive, especially in like those walkable areas. Like the area that you're in, kind of entry level, is like $850 there. Median is more around $900 to $1 million. And so like those stays are not always available because people that are purchasing in that price point might not be thinking about renting their basement. It might not be a need for them. And so a lot of times the demand is pushed to the neighboring suburbs just because of what's available in a market. Like sometimes the best that you can do on renting a short-term rental is between 10-15 minutes to downtown. So it's not necessarily that, the property is in the destination, but it's close to the destination.
Yeah, and regulations have a lot to do with it too. In Denver County, you cannot rent as a short-term rental unless it is your primary residence. So and we talk about this all the time, a lot of the demand gets pushed to the neighboring neighborhoods. So like our other two properties are, your guys' properties are. So I think that's a big part too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So I guess I have a pretty straightforward question too. So like for a lot of people that are just getting started, a lot of our clients who are newer, who are like maybe just getting into house hacking, the landscape for Airbnb and for real estate is a little bit different now than when you started. Do you have any like tips or advice? I mean, of course, all three of us are still, aggressively trying to increase our portfolios. And, as an experienced investor, like what would you say is like an important tips for newer investors?
I mean, I would say you can never really time the market, first of all. So right now, interest rates are high and competition's a little bit slower. When interest rates go down, prices are going to shoot back up, competition's going to shoot back up. So there's just no perfect time. So the best time to buy is whenever it works for you, when you can qualify for what you want, when the timing makes sense. So that's the first thing. And then I would say, as far as like if you're afraid if this is going to work for you, I think that, so I have 3 properties in 4 years that are netting me $60,000 total. So I think the same thing is possible. Maybe it takes a little bit longer. Maybe you have to refinance to get there, but it's all very possible still. So I think it's still a great time to get in the game. And if you're wanting to house hack, you're still moving. If you're moving from renting to owning, you're still moving from just literally throwing your money away every month or paying someone else's mortgage to suddenly making your money work for you. Like you're setting up that little piggy bank that we're talking about, and that's going to pay off for you in the long run. And then if you're house hacking, you are reducing your expense down to less than what your rent would be almost every time anyway. So I think it's still a great move for people. So I guess my tip would just be, don't be afraid to get in the game. I would say, they always say like, don't wait to buy real estate and wait. Mm-hmm. And it always pays off in the end. Like we were afraid of 380 and 495 when we bought both of those. And now I'm like, thank God I bought those, because now theirs are way more expensive, So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that that's so important to just remember the fundamentals of real estate investing, because like even if you weren't making any money on that asset, but that asset was just being paid down by other people, at the end of 30 years, now you own this asset free and clear, and that asset has appreciated likely in value in some way. So even looking at it from like the most boring conservative perspective, you get those benefits, not to mention the tax savings that we'll get into on another episode.
Yeah. And then layering on top of that, like fundamental ideas, short-term rental is the best thing that you can do with your money in real estate. So it's gonna make you the most money of any other strategy. Long-term's not gonna make you as much. Mid-term rentals aren't gonna make you as much. So I'm gonna short-term rental as long as I possibly can. And then if something changes or I don't want to anymore or something, then I have optionality, but that's still like the biggest moneymaker that you can do. So that keeps us going.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. It was wonderful hearing about your journey in house hacking. If you have any questions, if our audience has any questions, how can they get in contact with you?
My Instagram is at AlexaFerg_. Or don't forget the underscore. Or you can just email me. Should I say my email here? Yeah, Alexa@thegoodneighbors.com, and love to connect with people.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and we will chat with you all soon.